right, we're talking Murderer's Row here. I have been wanting to talk about a big string of my favorite movies, which I apparently have not done yet. Just you know, all lost in the brain blarg, and just let's say about that. I don't know, but thinking I need to start somewhere, and I saw it just recently, and so for the probably I don't know, it's been a long time. I've seen it multiple times, but one movie I definitely want listed on the old murderer's row here is definitely Santa Sangre. Ooh, doies. Man, okay, so pretty much anything created, you know, at least I'm going to go as far as say productions where he had control of the product, like Santa Sangre, like the Holy Mountain, like Endless Poetry, like uh, El Topo certainly, going all the way back to even the black and white one, Fando Elise. Any one of those damn movies is an absolute feast for the eye, and it's gonna blow your mind. And most of Alejandro Jodorowsky's movies would probably qualify for this. I'm hitting Santa Sangre, man, and you could attribute it to alcoholism, but I sat there bawling my eyes out the first time I saw this thing. It's a magnificent vision. Just young young Phoenix, played by Orowski's son Axel, who sadly is no longer with us, and also in the cast is his son. Is his son Teo, who is also no longer with us in a smaller role, but Axel just plays a brilliant role here, playing just the lead character of Phoenix, who's this guy that has been institutionalized seemingly since he was a child. And it flashes back to a child to where he's a circus kid. And he's, his father is this big, brutish knife thrower played by a Guy Stockwell, big, scary guy. And his mother is, she's a trapeze artist, but more than that, she's like a circus. She's like she leads a kind of a religious cult. They're kind of like some weird offshoot of the Catholic Church that have their little chapel that they keep, and one day he is absolutely traumatized when he watches the Catholic Church decide, we don't want this around, and I think many of the city officials and whatnot want to get rid of the structure and build something nice and new and spiffy. All just kind of like, yeah, let's tear it down, and she and her cult all kind of stand in the chapel and try to prevent it, but it gets bulldozed anyway. So it's sick, twisted, kind of, this kind of big, brutal Lothario of a father who brutalizes his son by tattooing his chest, at like age 10 or something, and kind of a really excruciating scene. And then later on, kills his wife, Phoenix's mother. Somewhere along these lines, he ends up in the mental hospital after way too much trauma. There's just brilliant scenes in there. There's this thing where the circus elephant, one of the circus elephants dies. Might be the only circus elephant, but they have this big thing where they take it out. They have a parade down the street, and they take this huge coffin with that they've got the elephant in, and they push it into a ravine, into like this big, landfill or something like that, and it goes sliding down a cliff, and it just goes crash at the bottom. And then a lot of the town urchins, street urchins and whatnot, go running up to it, and they're all grabbing stuff off it, and they're all grabbing meat off the elephant. It's crazy. It's like nothing you've ever seen. And later on, Axel Phoenix gets out of the asylum as an adult, and he goes skulking around kind of the city, and eventually finds his way back to some old theater. And in the theater, he finds some of his old compadres from the circus, and he finds his mother, who now has no arms. And he and his mother form this weird bond where she goes around and kills usually the people that women that Axel is attracted to. She goes and kills them, or has Axel, I keep saying Axel, Phoenix, really do it for her, but he is acting as her arms and basically killing for his armless mother. And, at some point, a little deaf mute girl that he knew in the circus, played as an adult by Sabrina Dennison. Again, fantastic. But she follows him. As she finds him, sees him, follows him, kind of sneaks around watching him and whatnot, and sees what he's doing. And boy, it's heavy. I'm just going to go ahead and do a little spoiler here because it's so powerful. And, even if you know what's coming, it's incredible to see. Okay. Sorry, guys. Feeling a little throaty. So, finally, he's gone and killed enough people, acting as his mother's arms. And when Alma, the deaf mute, comes back in contact with him, of course, it's like, this is another familiar person from my childhood who's come back. My friends come back to me at last. But she sees there's something wrong going on here, and she pretty much reveals to him that, he's been pulling a Norman Bates the whole time. Mother has been acting as son, but mother died years ago. And they're just the heavy moving image after all these murders have been committed. Like, the two of them come walking out of this desolate theater, and everything is stripped away. It's all a big illusion. Everything he's been reliving has been a big illusion. None of this stuff is real. None of these people, either they're dead or they moved on. And he and this deaf mute girl walk out of this abandoned theater, and the police are out there and they're all just like, put up your hands. And he raises his hand and he's just like looking at his hands and he's just like, my hands, my hands. And yeah, they're finally his hands. And yeah, which initially, yeah, being arrested for all the murders and whatnot, it's kind of a bleak ending, but there's a ray of sunshine in there because he now has some autonomy and he can come to grips with just the disaster and the abuse that he has had to deal with, and that has turned him into this. And maybe there's room toward the end of that for maybe some growth and some evolution, which in whatever form he can get it. I mean, presumably this story was related by this man who committed such murders, who was later in life walking around free. So, I listen to that story and it's kind of like, okay, so there's hope at the end of that, and that kind of knocked me for a loop. Just my hands, and boy, I need to do some stuff. A lot of people have talked about El Topo. That's kind of generally seemed to be the big one. The Holy Mountain, which a lot of people consider to be a convoluted, pretentious mess, but which is kind of late in the day, rightfully seen for the classic that it is. Both incredible. I think, for my money, I feel like I might want to go back to Fando Elise. Maybe do that in a kind of tandem thing with Viva la Muerte by Arrabal, since they kind of tell a similar story. There's maybe similar roots, similar characters who may be one particular character, and I feel like that's something I want to add to this rolling mess. But man, Jodorowsky, generally speaking, do not miss him if you get the opportunity to see anything he's done. This guy, in my opinion, is probably the greatest filmmaker in the world. Obviously, Fellini is up there. I don't know. I put Andrei Zulawski and David Lynch up there in that same category. But this is an extraordinary movie. They all are. Anyway, happy viewing, folks.